Yes, let's go.
We are recording.
Okay. I call this council budget workshop meeting of February 9th, 2021 to order at 7:03 p.m. Will everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please read the Open Publics Meeting Act?
This budget workshop meeting was called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was published in the record on January 28th, 2021. In addition, a copy of the notice was posted on the city's website, bulletin board in the municipal building, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk on aforementioned date. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, at Seek and Local Finance Notice 2020-21, new emergency regulations, remote public meetings held during a declared emergency, issued by the Local Finance Board on September 24th, 2020, and NJAC 5:39-1, emergency remote meeting protocol for local public bodies, establishing standard protocols. The City Council of the City of Englewood adopted resolution number 47-1-19-21, authorizing the City of Englewood schedule of council budget workshop meetings for 2021 to be held remotely via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by calling or clicking on the link below at 7 p.m. A link is on our website, or by dialing 929-205-6099. The meeting ID for this meeting is 872-1533-6614, and the passcode is 956994. Individuals calling into this meeting will be able to fully participate in the meeting, including providing public comment. Public comments may be submitted by 3 p.m. on the date of the meeting, either through written letter or email to meeting@cityofenglewood.org. All written comments shall be read during the public forum portion of the meeting and shall be subject to the same time limitations for public speaking. Duplicative comments shall be noted for the record and summarized. The agenda for the meeting can be found on the city's website at www.cityofenglewood.org. A separate meeting will be used if closed session is required. Proper notice having been given, the municipal clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting.
Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilman Cohen.
Here.
Councilman Hamer.
Here.
Councilwoman Marin.
Here.
Councilman Rosenzweig.
Here.
And Council President Cobb.
Here.
Absent with prior notice, Mayor Michael Wiles. He wished to convey that he had to attend mandatory EMT training. Running late is City Manager Sonia Alves Viveros, and also present is CFO Kaufman.
Okay, as we're going to get started tonight, this budget workshop agenda items are the city clerk, Englewood Public Library, and the police department. Up is the city clerk. Yancy, you have the floor and you have our attention.
Okay.
I'll just say, sorry, before you,
Yep.
Salaries went up 1.5%. O&E went up 0%. So it's a very minimal budget increase. Nancy?
I'm not making any special requests of the council in this budget cycle. I know our revenues were down because of the permitting, outdoor permitting, outdoor dining permitting. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Is something that we do license through our department, and because of the COVID and the council waiving the fees for all the establishments in town, we did not collect any revenue on that. Garage sale permits were down, I believe, as well. With COVID, there were not that many garage sale permits in town, which really was just a minimal amount anyway. I believe I put in my narrative the only unknown at this point that I can't put a number on is once the census numbers come out, if there's going to be redistricting required. If that happens in this year, if people get moved around, we will be required to send mailers to all the registered voters who may be moved to different districts. I don't know at this point what anything is going to look like. The census numbers have not been released yet. So that's just going to be an unknown. I don't know if it'll happen this year, if it'll get pushed out to next year, but we'll see what happens with that. Out of that, if anyone has any questions.
So some of the other things, Yancey, that you're challenged with, you run the elections and some of those other things we need to talk about and understand what's going on since the pandemic and how it's impacted your office. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of transactions that happen that couldn't happen physically with people, and some of the things that we've done in the past. You know, obviously, you got a drop box there. You have a another box out there for the election. So there are a number of things that I think that you could apprise us on that you've been busy with.
Well, right now, we're trying to organize. Did you want to talk about 2020 or 2021?
Well, you can talk about 2020 and then you can roll to 2021 if it's all relevant. Sure, you had the floor.
Well, you know, 2020, there were a lot of changes that the governor established. I mean, I'm really happy and proud of the team that's there between my staff and other departments who assisted in helping me organize all the governor's executive orders and the changes that needed to be made, the signs that needed to be made, and just running around and trying to get these things done. And, you know, it was a lot smoother than I thought it would be. That was a big help. The public, for the most part, you know, they were informed. If they didn't, at least they knew to call, become informed. For 2021, the county clerk recently posted the petition requirements for this year, for the upcoming primary election. Unfortunately, there were no instructions with it. We are having a meeting. All the municipal clerks in the county are having a meeting with them next week via Zoom. And I'm hoping we'll have the instructions on that. I did read a recent post that they're anticipating in-person elections for both the April school board elections and the May municipal elections, neither of which we're involved in, but I guess that'll be a good test for them to see how the in-person works out. So hopefully for June, maybe that's something we can anticipate as well, is having more in person. People obviously will still have the option of voting by mail if they wish to. So, you know, we're just working with the governor's office, the county officials, and just trying to comply and do everything that we need to do. It's a whirlwind, but, you know, we're able to follow along.
Does anybody have any questions for Yancey?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Nobody has any questions?
Mr. Cohen.
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, Yancy. Just a very general question. I'm not looking for any specific answer. I'm just looking for just a general ballpark. How much of all of the clerks, I don't mean the clerk you, I mean your staff office, how much of the clerk's office work out of its entirety, percentage-wise, like I said, just very ballpark. I'm not expecting an answer that you really have. Would you say is dealing with OPA requests at this point?
At this point, we have one staff member whose 90% of her job is Oprah's. It's taking up a lot of time. And then you have my other staff members who assist sometimes when there's large amounts of copies or scans that need to be made, as well as where I jump in and if there's complicated legal issues with certain OPA requests. But we are, even with the pandemic last year, we did go over 1,000 OPA requests. So that did not slow down at all. That kept moving full speed ahead.
So if I was to estimate based on what you said, if I said, you know, a third of the entire clerk's works, probably over a third based on what you're saying, over a third of the entire office at this point is really having to deal with these OPA requests, right? Well, thank you so much, Nancy.
Judy?
I was just wondering, have you been called upon by the Department of Health or anybody else to help distribute information on vaccine distribution? Because I haven't seen, it's not that I've been around that much, but I haven't seen notices posted anywhere that I've been. I was just wondering if they would come to you with requests to help them.
That is not something my department would get involved in. That's something the city manager's office would help coordinate. They're the ones who operate the website and the Facebook page.
Thanks, Nancy.
Ken?
Hi, Nancy. So what processes would you change now since the pandemic? Is there anything that you realize you don't need an office for, or things might work more efficiently online, et cetera?
That we don't need an office for? No. I mean,
you're working remotely for a certain period of time, right?
hybrid. It is not, you can't do full remote.
Even in the office, a lot.
We do issue permits and licenses, so that's a full working from home is not possible. We do have to have someone there, especially since my department's also in charge of the mail. So we have to sort the mail, accept the mail.
So what was done remotely?
Mostly phone calls, any documents or any emails that we could send out, notices, anything that we could type up really, any follow-ups on things we could do. But things that had to be in the office, we had to do there, and the city seal has to be placed on a lot of items, so we have to make sure that's done in person. Like today, I just, with some of those resolutions that were adopted at the last meeting for CDBG, they need a city seal that the nonprofits have to submit with their application. So they have that. We were able to at least meet them at the door and give them those.
Is the tax assessor under you? Okay. So your group is just who sits in that office up front, in your office, okay. All right, thank you.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes, Yancy, just a couple of items. One is with regard to pandemic and messaging, there are certain things that the clerk's office is responsible for. Is it possible that we can start simplifying whatever those messages are, whatever the process is to get information from your office, just in a effort to be more embracing of the residents, get that message out, boil it down and get it out through the city manager's office in whatever communications vehicle, because I do know that there is a level of frustration, and it's not, with the clerk's office per se, it's with the city administration period, when residents are calling in, and if for whatever reason, the office isn't necessarily manned, just helping everyone understand what the service level agreement is going to be for a response, and communicating that out through the city manager so that, everyone, it makes your job easier too. People understand what to expect, and you're managing expectations, and it makes things run a little more smoothly, at least I believe. So if there are ways that you can communicate out whatever those processes are, then I think we'll all benefit greatly. And that's, we all had to learn how to do it all over again by remote access. So thank you for the job you did as clerk and standing in as our city manager for a short while, and so all of that works together. But just given what we went through, if there are ways that we can make what you do more efficient and easier on you and the residents, and we all win. And that's stuff I'd like for you to think about and start getting over to the manager's office so it can get communicated out.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that, Yancy, the tools, if there are tools that we can get you to help you out, or anybody who's, employees in the city to do their job better, we should, tell us that and see how we can make that happen. Just to make, I think that because communication is key here, and that's one thing that I don't think we do well. I'm just talking about the city as a whole, all of us, and we got to look for ways to improve that. So whatever ideas you may have or whatever, just feel free to let us know.
Actually, there's one thing I'm happy to report on, and as we're talking, it popped in my head. So when I do the open statement, you notice that I say something's posted on the bulletin board. Obviously, the public can't come into the building, so they can't see the bulletin board. So I requested, and the city manager's office has been working with our website vendor, and they're going to be a virtual bulletin board on the website.
Oh, okay.
So what's normally posted on the bulletin board in City Hall will now be posted on our website. So it'll just be an easy click for the public. So hopefully that'll be a helpful tool for everyone.
Okay. That sounds good. Councilman Cohen?
I just wanted to quickly just double back on something that Councilman Hammer said also, which I don't think gets enough attention. I do think we all need to just, take a moment to just commend you, Yancy, for recognizing what you went through in 2020 and I guess probably a little bit of 2019, between having to deal with your job with the clerk, with all the things, clerk's office, with all the things, whether it's open, everything else that have been exploding on you, while having to deal with taking over not once but twice as acting city manager, literally in a moment's notice, dealing with. I think we just need to take a second and just really just say thank you to you, Yancy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yancy. Anything with Ken?
Yeah, thank you. And even though I wasn't here working with you directly, thank you for the past 35 days. So one issue that comes up sometimes is use of the municipal court for meetings. And now that people are more comfortable with Zoom, has there been any talk whether, hybrid, and I mean that in two meanings. One is, will we be able to do, let's say, the meetings in person and also have them on Zoom? So for people who, especially, in the next year or so, where people might not be comfortable coming to a meeting in person, but will still want to be involved, is this something that could potentially be set up where the council meets in person? It's allowed by law. We're only allowed 26 people in the courthouse, I once heard you say, but we can get another 100 people observing the session and have them have a chance to make public statements. And number two, the other meaning of hybrid for me is, can the planning board have one Thursday meeting in person and then the next meeting do it on Zoom and switch back and forth depending whether or not they have the space available to do it? Because sometimes, the Board of Adjustment will need a special meeting and they just physically can't get a room because you can't have it in around the table in City Hall. You have to have it in a big place and display boards and all that. So are either of those things happening in clerk circles that they're talking about that either way?
I think it depends on the municipality and the size of the room and their normal size of their audience. I have to go back and read the notice. We have not been doing in person mainly because of the size limitations. I don't think we can restrict people from attending in person if they want to be in person, and with the room limitations, that would be difficult to let everybody in if they wanted to be there in person. But I can go back and read the notice, that the local finance notice that that was issued by the state.
Can we do a hybrid in person and also on Zoom?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard of any other town doing that, but I can check around. We are looking. I've been working with Ashland.
Well, I'm assuming that's going to be something we need to do in September. when a lot of people have been vaccinated, the guideline and the numbers are down, the guidelines are being lifted, but you're still going to have a good percentage of the population who is not going to want to go into a crowded room.
I mean, our meetings are normally posted live. When we're in the courtroom, our meetings are live to YouTube anyway. I'm working with Asher as well for these meetings to be posted live on YouTube. It's just a little bit with the technology. If you notice, sometimes there's a little bit of lag time. If we go live to YouTube, it will make it slower. So he's working with them to figure that out. But as far as once the restrictions are lifted, I'm not sure, because the only reason we can't be in that courtroom is because of the restrictions. If again, we'll be live to YouTube once again we're in the courtroom, and we'll be live hopefully soon with these Zoom sessions as well.
Anybody else?
Right, and the second question, is it going to, let's say even 2 years from now, is there going to be the ability, if the Board of Adjustment wants to have a special meeting, to just post it on Zoom?
That's going to be up to the state. They issue those guidelines if they're going to allow these types of meetings to continue in electronic format once the restrictions are lifted. They only put those in place due to the emergency. If they'll remove those guidelines once the emergency is lifted, we'll have to wait and see what they say, because we're just following state guidelines at this point. That's all we could do.
Can a municipality make its own rules about meetings like that?
We follow the Open Public Meetings Act and the regulations they put in place. If they say we can continue having electronic meetings, yes, I don't see why not.
Right.
If they say no, then no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Nancy, I guess you're off the hot seat. I don't think anybody else has any other questions for you, and you didn't ask for much, so
No, not this year. Maybe
not
next.
this year. I guess everything is status quo, but still think about what Councilman Hamer said to you, but also as well is whatever tools we need, because we do need to get our arms around the Oprah request somehow, some way, to spend 90% of somebody's time there just doing that. But we got to do it. So hopefully we can figure something out there. So I believe the library is next, right?
Next, yes. And John Arthur, I believe
Is John back?
Well, I guess for this meeting he is.
Yeah, well, we have to say congratulations to John.
Yes. Hey, John, can you unmute?
Hey, John, you sleeping much? Congratulations.
No, thank you so much. No, not sleeping at all.
Got your tie on and everything. Wow.
I know. It felt weird.
The question is, are you wearing pants?
Yes, I am.
Don't want to know.
John,
It's way too much information.
That's an HR problem, Mr. Kaufman. Do you know that?
I was thinking about wear shorts.
John, are any of the board members, did you want them also on?
I know that. Let me see who's here in attendance.
I know one board member who's signing on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know Nina's here. I don't know if she wants to join in.
Where's your deputy at, Esperanza?
She's probably, considering she's been running everything in the past couple weeks, so hopefully she's taking a little bit of a break. But
Sleeping.
So she didn't show up? Well, I know she'll dial in on her phone. She's probably dialed in, to be honest.
Yeah, she's probably on her phone.
Yeah. So do you want me to text Nina and see if she wants to join in, Yancy? Or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, please.
She normally.
She normally participates. So.
Right.
I see Nina as a attendee.
She's on an attendee.
Yeah.
And Catherine.
Or to panelist.
And Amy.
And Amy's here. Yeah.
We only have
We usually have
everybody.
The board presenting, co-presenting. Well, I mean,
Okay, she said sure, Yancy, if you want to bump Nina up to panelist. And also hello everyone out there, Amy and Chief and everyone who's out there.
Hi, everybody.
Nina.
Hi, Nina.
Hi, Nina.
Nice to be here.
So should I just get started, or
Go for
Yes,
it.
you may.
When do you want me to do that screen share, John?
I'll let you know. But
Basically, there's they just say the library wasn't requesting an increase this year. John will go through that, why, I'm sure.
So yeah, as Mr. Kaufman said, the library did not request any increase to the budget this year. Many of you have been on the council for a long time. You probably know the library's budget has actually been flat for now. This will be the 9th year. So there hasn't been an increase in nearly a decade. This year, we usually ask for an increase because there's always more we can do, right? We always want to have more services. We always want to fix the building up more. But given the circumstances with COVID, we figure we've done a pretty good job of increasing our services in a lot of ways without increasing our budget. In the long run, we might have to talk about that in a different way, which I'll get to. But for this year, we wanted to keep things flat and, with respect to the unemployment and the taxpayers and everybody who's, suffering through this pandemic. So we have in this last year had obviously a very interesting year. We closed in March along with everybody else. We opened a couple months later, but we quickly pivoted to a lot of online services. And we actually had a statewide survey of libraries to kind of report how their online services were going. And only 48 libraries responded, but of the 48 that responded, Englewood by far had the most attendance at online events. And I'm talking about those countywide systems with multiple locations, and Englewood by far had the most attendance in those years. So I think looking forward, what we're going to be faced with is once we can restore all the physical services that we have not been able to do in the past 9 or 10 months, when you factor in also the increase to the digital services, I think we're actually going to have a demand for both that are increased once everything reopens again. And that's when we get to that position where we might have to talk about the funding differently, because we're going to have these new services and these more traditional services, and we're going to have a high demand for all of them at the same time. When the economy is not doing well, when unemployment is high, historically, library usage goes up greatly. In 08, 09, in the Great Recession, I believe the numbers are that book circulation, material circulation went up by about 19% in New Jersey libraries, and 12% increase in visits to libraries during that time. So I foresee that happening if or when COVID really calms down. Of course, nobody knows when that's going to be, but we have some ideas, but we'll see how that goes. So I really do envision it that once COVID is at least under control, to the point where we're able to fully reopen, we're going to see just this massive increase, especially with people working from home, people doing college from home, university, grad school from home. Before the pandemic started, we had people that would come to the library and they would show up at 9 o'clock like it was their job, and they would come in with their laptop and they'd sit there, and we'd be leaving at the end of the day from our shift, and they'd still be sitting there, or they'd be leaving with us, and they were working from the library. So Yancy, if you could bring up that screen real quick. It's a quick 1-page kind of PDF.
Gotta give me a second.
Sure. And it just kind of tells the story that what I'm talking about, how we've done more without an increase to our budget, but at a certain point we're going to be pressed, I think, to try and do even more, which we want to.
There you go.
So if you look from 2017 to 2019, you'll see some pretty steady increases. Like children's program basically doubled. Adult programs went up by a large percentage. In 2020, the decreases that you see there are pretty self-explanatory. It's because those are the in-person program attendance numbers. So that's really only the first 3 months of 2020. But then that line below, online program attendance, is brand new. And that more than made up for the decreases that we saw. So the total program attendance actually went up in 2020 when you count all of the online programs. We did more than 800 online programs from March to December of 2020. So multiple per day, obviously, if you do the math, 2 to 3 per day for that whole period of time. Even though we were closed a few months, if you look physical material circulation, print books and all that, we still almost circulated 100,000 items, 95,000 items. I actually thought those numbers were going to be lower. So I was actually quite happy with that, considering we were in the middle of a pandemic. So again, I foresee when we're able to fully reopen, those numbers are going to go back up. But these digital material numbers that have really drastically gone up with this 171% increase, I don't think they're going to go down as much as everything else goes up. So we're going to have these, again, dual needs. And then lastly, the video views. We weren't producing videos before the pandemic started, but we've been putting together online story times and music programs and all these different videos. And in total, we've had them viewed more than 160,000 times. So again, compared to the other libraries that responded to the survey statewide, those numbers are very high. I'm really, really proud of our staff, because we closed on March 16th, 2020, and within a day, pretty much, we were doing tons of online programming, and in 2021, it's just going to continue. There's other things we want to increase in 2021. We want to continue the jazz concert series. We actually continued it in 2020. We were able to do 4 of them, socially distant. So it has continued last year, and this upcoming year, hopefully we can bring it back to 8 weeks, or even increase it to 10 weeks, because it's the most popular in-person program that we have. We are still looking, obviously, at building needs. The Library Construction Bond Act, the first round money was awarded. Englewood was not chosen. 7 out of 10 libraries that applied were not chosen because it was very competitive. There will be a second round. We don't have a date yet, but we're working to apply for that. Whether or not we get that money, they're still going to have the same building needs. So we're going to have those needs either way. We hope we get the money, obviously. And one other last thing I wanted to note is that one of the most successful programs that we've had, both in person and digitally in the past, really multiple years, is our English as a Second Language classes. We also shifted those online immediately after closing, and they ran 5 or 6 days a week, all the way. They're still running online, and about 50 total students have been attending. Some attend multiple days per week, some just attend when they're able to, but it's become a really core group of people that are just highly dedicated to using the library in that way. And a lot of them would not have been able to attend, actually, if they physically had to come in as often as they were calling in or joining in on the Zoom. So again, I'll just say one more last time. I really think we're going to have this digital and physical need, and they're both going to continue to increase, especially when we're able to reopen. So yeah, this year, again, we're asking for a flat budget just to keep ourselves going, but there's so much more we want to do, and we're really only limited by how much funding we have. If in an ideal world, we could hire 10 English as a Second Language teachers and run classes from morning to night, 7 days a week, and they'd all be well attended. So we're just kind of scratching the surface of meeting all these needs that the public has for our library. And I really think that we can continue to grow the library, grow these services, and make Englewood a better place for everybody. That's really our goal at the library, is whatever your need is, whether it's a quiet place to study, an English class, the right book to help your career, or just to make your day better. That's really what we're there for. So that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. It probably means about 30,000 different things to the approximately 30,000 different people that live in Englewood, but that's what we're there for. So,
hey John, can I ask you a question?
Sure. I was just going to say, if anyone has any questions, or if Nina wants to say anything, then I'm pretty much. I think that's pretty much it for me. So,
let me go back to the English as a Second Language ESL, and when those people complete your program, can you just shoot their names over and we can honor them some kind of way? Because I think that's an achievement.
Sure.
We need to recognize that they've done that. Let's work on something for them. I think it's important. Obviously, it's outside of the budget, but I just wanted to say that before I forget. So put that on your radar. And the other thing is, I want to ask is, I know you have a number of repairs that are needed in the library, and you kind of really didn't touch on it. You just said it in a big term.
Sure.
Has the elevator been fixed?
It has. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so it's operating.
It is operating. I was the first one to ride it just in case it wasn't, but I made it up, I made it down, and no, it's been working for months. So no issues since it was. And it's the parts are brand new. It looks like the same old elevator, but inside is all new digital stuff. So it works now. Yeah.
Right, but it's not ADA compliant, right?
Well, the problem is the shaft is too small, and since that building is a big poured concrete building,
right,
making the shaft bigger is pretty much an impossibility.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. And
the only way to make it
are there what other, in your view, what other major repairs do you need to make to the library, or you would like to see made to the library this year?
So the drains on the roof need addressing. They've improved greatly, but there's still some issues with drainage and with leaks. Other items that we really want to address. I mean, if we get the construction bond, we want to make it the library that I'm talking about, that has the quiet study areas for people to do their work, that has better, more modern, more contemporary usages for the public. We need more meeting space. You know, obviously this past 9 or 10 months, we haven't needed that meeting space, but in the future, when things do eventually get back to normal, our program attendance is really, really pretty good compared to the vast majority of libraries of a similar size, and the size of our rooms just doesn't really cut it for those types of events. But I'd say the roof, as for like actual, needs, the roof, the heating, I mean, just the other day, the heating, we've had multiple issues with the heating and the air conditioning. It gets fixed every year, but we need to maybe look at the whole thing. We just got a building needs assessment done from an architectural firm. It's like an 80, 90, 100-page report. So, that's been sent around to the appropriate, to Mr. Volsi and to everybody. So we do have that building needs assessment, but I'd say heating, air conditioning, the roof, and improving ADA compliance, like in our bathrooms on the main floor, getting them redone to make them ADA compliant, and just to make them better able to be used in general.
So we got to make sure that Mr. Volsi puts that together there. Well, I think the big thing here is, it sounds like it is the bathrooms, right, on the main floor.
That's one big thing. Yeah. I mean, they definitely are outdated. They are not able to be used in any sort of an ADA compliant type way. And there's definitely some plumbing issues too throughout the building.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for John?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Hi, John, it's Ken Rosenzweig.
Hello.
Some scattershot questions here. So on the, every council meeting, we vote for budget items. And I saw last meeting, we had about $15,000 for ebooks or audiobooks. Were those physical audiobooks, or were those is that the subscription for Hoopla or Libby or Buckles or one of those?
Sure. So there's multiple, I'd have to know the exact line you're talking about, but I could say it this way. If it came from a company called Overdrive, then it is Libby. If it came from Hoopla, it's Hoopla. And if it came from Baker and Taylor or Blackstone, then it's the physical audiobooks. So I'd have to know the exact line that you're talking about. But if you look back, Overdrive is like I said, Libby, and Hoopla is just called Hoopla, but Blackstone or Baker and Taylor are the physical items. I don't think we spent, we wouldn't have spent $15,000 on physical audiobooks in one purchase, because they're just not as popular as the digital.
It also seemed weird that it was a round number.
So what we sometimes do is we'll put a purchase together of a round number, and then we kind of draw down on it because we know we're going to make purchases throughout the months. So it might have been a $15,000 kind of purchase order from Overdrive, and then the children's department orders $1,000 with audiobooks, that gets applied to it. The teen department orders $1,000, that gets applied to it. I decide to order some stuff that I think the library needs, that gets applied to it. So it comes from all the different librarians kind of applying it to the same purchase order for that one company.
Okay. And on the Hoopla and Libby, does the library get charged per rental, or is it a buffet and all that you can eat?
Sure. So they're actually both different, very different models, right? So Hoopla is more like what you just said. It's per circulation. So if you check out a book, there's different rates for the books that I guess they negotiate with the publishers. That's kind of out of our hands. But let's say you check out any book, really. It could cost the library anywhere from maybe $1, $2 for you to get that that digital book. Maybe $3, depending on the book. So that just gets charged to us. And we set limits because of that so that we can limit how much we're spending. Because if it was just completely open, we could find ourselves with a bill that's out of our control. So that's why it's a limit of like 20 checkouts per month. And then there's a monetary limit that I set where if as a city we hit that limit, it just stops Hoopla. And then I know, do we want to increase it or can we increase it basically? So it saves us from a bad situation basically. So that's a pay per circ model, Hoopla. Libby is the opposite. Libby's almost like an actual bookshelf. We buy the books and we buy the digital books and they sit there on the shelf. We're really buying kind of the rights to those books. And there's, even within Libby, there's multiple methods of doing that. There's, you buy the book and you own it outright. Then there's, you buy 25 circulations of the book, and as soon as those 25 circulations are done, it disappears. And they try to, then they email me and say, your circulations have run out. Do you want to buy another 25? And I guess their argument for that is the publishers feel when you buy a physical book, it deteriorates and you eventually have to replace it. So this is way larger than just Englewood. This is something between the publishers and libraries throughout the world, really. But and there's a lot of different opinions, and I think the costs are a little higher than they need to be for digital books. But it's an ongoing fight, basically, between the libraries and the publishers to bring the cost down to a reasonable level.
John, are you screen share?
Okay.
Yeah, the screen share is done if you, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple more questions, Judy, if you don't mind.
No, this was on, if you wouldn't mind, I just wanted to ask you a question. Were you talking about a budget line or a budget or a bill? When you were talking about the $15,000, I didn't understand that.
So on our bills and claims at the last council meeting, I remember seeing that line. I thought it said audiobooks, $15,000. So I was surprised that a physical item would have such a round number.
Yeah,
and then we didn't know if that was the title for Hoopla or Libby, and so I said I would ask the question.
No, I'm glad you did, because I thought things that were appearing on the bills list were actual bills. I don't really understand. I mean, if you have a line in your budget of $15,000 for audiobooks or whatever they are, why is it necessary to charge? Why does it appear in our bills list? I don't understand that.
The bills list is only what was paid, what was actually paid. So 15,000 was actually paid.
But that's not what Mr. Arthur said.
So then I was confused. So if it was what was actually paid, then it was a rare case that all of the bills that came from those different sources, the Children's Department, added up to, I guess, exactly $15,000. Or we had a $15,000 purchase order. So we made it fit all the way up to that, and then whatever was remaining would get applied to another purchase order. Is that'd
be my guess on it,
Mr. Kaufman?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman, are we allowed to do that? I'm not familiar with that kind of process. I mean, the bills list is a bit, all right.
Ms. Marin, with regard to the library and its function and how we pay out for the library, they're a whole separate entity. So oftentimes they'll bill the city. So Michael, if you could just kind of explain further how sort of autonomous the library could be and the funding that we provide to the library and why that bill would show up that way. Do you know what I'm saying?
I follow you. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Michael?
It's the library, we give them the 2,105,870, if I'm correct, from all those years. They spend it how they want to spend it. We don't really, I don't really question them if they're buying what they want to spend it on. They have their own board. They spend it how they want to spend it. So at the end of the year, if they have any left over, which usually they don't have much left over, but if they have some left over, we write them a check after a few months following the year, and we send it to them, and they use it how they want to use it. And they have their own audit. They have their own
Okay.
board. So
Yeah. And the board also does approve the bills as well. So it's not like just the bills come to me and I sign them. There's a 9-person board that also looks at them, thankfully, which I'm glad, it's good to have multiple levels of checks and balances. So, but in that case of the 15,000, sorry if I misspoke, it was almost, now that I'm understanding it better, it must've been a case of a purchase order that we filled up with all of the different orders, and then
No, that makes
sometimes
sense.
they do a purchase order, a drawdown purchase order for 15,000, let's say for $15,000.
I
And then they do another one, so they finish that one, and then still.
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
And we know it's all wild Zoom parties for the trustees.
it's exactly.
Yeah. So one thing you didn't mention is, and I know there's a lot of stress with parking and misuse of the library parking lot. How can the council help with that?
So our neighbors that we share the lot with do have some ideas about that, and that I think ultimately would have to go, depending on the nature of those ideas, it would probably need the library board's full approval, and potentially, because of some of the ideas they have, even maybe planning board or board of adjustment approval, depending on what they want to do. It's a little bit, it depends on what direction we want to go with it. Obviously, with COVID, the parking situation's gotten a lot better, but that's not gonna last forever. But it's an ongoing problem. Before COVID started, there was every Tuesday morning the lot would be filled up before 10 o'clock, and it would stay full basically the whole day. So I don't know if it would get escalated to the level of the council. It really depends. Like I said, it might be planning board or board of adjustment depending on the plans.
Okay, but certainly let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Thank you.
And with regard to physical books, are you still disinfecting them? Is that still needed at this point? Now that we know more about coronavirus?
So there's a lot of differing opinions about that, but as you all know, we're part of a library consortium of 77 libraries, and they're currently still expecting us to quarantine them for a couple days. So when we send them, buckles. We move like millions of books literally every year between the 77 libraries. So since everybody else is expecting us to do that, we kind of still have to. But there are, like you said, seems like there's differing opinions about whether it really is a useful thing anymore. But as of now, we're still quarantining the books, yes.
Okay.
And that would probably require a library consortium-wide change in perspective before we would stop.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for John Arthur? Mr. Hamer?
I don't have any questions, but I do just want to make this comment again. I really do like what the library does. You guys have gotten it right. In terms of communicating out, you have a very expansive pool of residents and even people out of town are subscribers to your information. So kudos to you, your staff, and the board. You keep doing it the right way. So we need to partner with you on the messaging, and I do like your move toward technology and satisfying the needs. And you're right, those needs are growing and will grow. So keep ahead of the curve. We're benefiting because of it.
Thank you.
Yep. Judy?
All right. I second everything he said. I think the library is fantastic. You're doing a wonderful job. I haven't heard anything but raves about your services. I just wanted to introduce something that may or may not be in play right now. I left the school board a long time ago. It was the year before the Engle Street School was sold. I remember very clearly unfortunately, I don't remember whether it was part of the lease or as part of the deed of the property. There was a proviso that should the Engle Street School be sold to any purpose other than education, that the lot behind, you know, that long strip behind your, that barrier, that the burn, the landscaping, that would revert back to the library. Now, I don't know if anybody has looked into that or checked that. I know that that was in force, as I said, the year before the building was sold. Just a thought.
Oh no, we looked. Are you talking about with regard to the number of spaces that we have access to for the library?
No, I'm talking about the piece of property that's directly behind, not part of the circle, but directly behind, you know, behind the shrubbery.
Mm-hmm.
That
parking lot,
that, that parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very big issue at one point, that it was part of the rules of the sale of that building. Because at the time, I mean, this is all historical, the bank wanted to buy the building. It was very important that the school board wanted to make sure that that parking area would revert to the library.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if anybody has looked into that, if it was part of the, you know, the sale of the building, that it was rewritten, but I am telling you that should have been your parking lot.
So we did look into it a little bit, and there was a provision for the number of spaces that are exclusively library spaces, and then the number of spaces that are shared with our neighbor, and then the number of spaces that are exclusively for our neighbor. And what we found, we had lawyers look at it and everything, and I actually went outside and counted the spaces, and we do have the appropriate number of spaces under the agreement that I saw. If you're referring to a different agreement that may have happened, I've never been privy to that, but from the agreement I saw between, you know, the current owners and I think the sale happened at this point decades ago, but
it was around 1983.
Yes.
And as I said, I think it's worth looking into, because it's bothered me. It was one of the things I just put in the back of my memory. But as you were talking about needing more parking, it came to the forefront in my mind. I just think someone ought to look at that.
Oh, thank you. No, I'll try to find more information. But from the, like I said, from the agreement I saw, we do have the appropriate number of spaces with signage that says that there are library spaces, based on what I saw.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody else got something for John Arthur?
I would just like to thank the council for all your support.
Somebody's saying something. I can't hear them.
I think it's Nina. Nina, you're very faint.
Oh, I don't know what's wrong because I'm not muted. Start video. Can you hear me now?
That's
Yes.
better.
Yes.
Much better.
I just want to thank the council for all the support that you give to the library, and I would like to thank John for being a great director, and the staff also. So that's what the board thinks.
Well, thank you so much. I also would love to thank the council and the board and our staff, because really I mean, I'm not just saying this, the library to me it's the whole community. You know, we're just coordinating it. So it takes everybody, it takes the staff, it takes everybody involved, it takes the pub, you know, the members of the residents as well. So, you know, I really hope we can all work together and just continue to make it the best place we can make it.
Great.
John, I just have one question. The 166,000 views, was most of that you're playing the guitar for the kids?
It was, yeah. but and just to be completely honest, those views, we don't know whether they were 10 seconds or 10 minutes, but you know, a fair amount of them were clearly people that were watching for long enough to comment and to join in and to be a part of it. So
Great.
a lot of them were,
John, how did your wife click on so many times to run up that number?
I don't know how she did it. And actually, that's funny you say that, because she'd be the last person that would even bother to do something like that. So, but.
Sure. Okay.
All right, John. We're not going to keep you, but congratulations once again.
Yeah,
John.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, get some sleep there.
I'll try.
We got some programs coming for you.
We do. I saw everything's looking good. So thanks
You
for
see,
working with us on it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. So
Yeah.
That's good, but thank you once again. And I think John is finished. He can go attend to more important business. And I believe the next department up is the PD. We're ahead of schedule by 30 minutes, I believe. So Sonia is there he is. He's here. He can start
Yes.
as soon as he gets ready.
Sonia, I missed what time you arrived because I had the weird screen view.
It was about 7:40, and I apologize, everyone. We're in the year of reconciliation, trying to be good Catholics, and my daughter's doing her communion in about 2 months. So we had a meeting this evening.
Hey. And I believe there was a handout that was sent to everybody, an update for the PD. Everybody should have gotten an additional handout, because I'm sure that's what the chief will be working off of tonight. Chief, it's your show.
Only just to summarize their budget.
Yes, summarize it, and then take your time while you're summarizing, because I'm sure we'll be taking notes.
The salary and wages went up $244,000, which is 2.03%. And other expenses went down $34,000, which is a negative 5.52%, for a total increase of 1.5%, 210,000.
Okay. Chief?
Could you repeat that, please?
What happened?
Me?
Yeah, would you mind doing that one more time?
Sure. Salary and wages went up $244,000, 2.03%.
Mm-hmm.
And other expenses went down $34,000, which is a negative 5.52%. For a total increase of 210,000, which is 1.5% increase.
Okay. You ready, Judy?
Yeah, thank you. No, I just wanted to clarify that, yes.
Okay. Chief?
Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right.
Our department has been fairly busy during the COVID season of 2020. We had approximately 42,000 recorded events that took place. Out of that, probably about 32,000 of those were calls for service that we actually handled during the course of the year. Again, it was a challenging year with some of the staffing issues due to the COVID. We, like other city agencies, went into COVID mode and worked on restricted work schedules. That being said, we were able to provide the best service possible under the circumstances. In addition to our staffing challenges that we have, we currently have 72 sworn law enforcement officers and 20 civilian staff members on our payroll, to include the parking enforcement, our dispatch contingent, and our administrative staff within the department. Out of that, we have been in conversation to look to immediately hire 2 people that were previously budgeted in our 2020 budget. I have been working with HR, and we're putting together a hiring process that will allow us to onboard 2 individuals, hopefully with law enforcement experience, that we'll be able to minimally train with our in-service field training and put them into service as rapidly as possible. It is a goal that I've spoken to the city manager about, to at some point put together a hiring process test for others as we have gone and filled our ranks, hopefully to a level where we'll be able to sustain. Currently, we are working at a deficit with the staffing issue and some COVID-related issues, and we also have a long-term injury that is plaguing the department as well, where our staff members are not able to work. And that has been since one long-term issue since April of last year, and one towards the end of 2020, which is something that's been ongoing and is not something that we expect to the person to return anytime soon. As a result of the staffing shortages, we were unable to put in place the initiatives that I was looking to put in place in 2020, which were our community outreach and our quality of life issues. A specific squad that would be able to address our quality of life issues. As most of you know, you receive complaints about issues going on within your respective wards, and we're looking to try and address those in a rapidly, quick and rapid manner in order to mitigate any issues that may occur. And that's something, still a goal of mine. I look forward to trying to implement in the 2021 year, in addition to the community outreach, which I believe is very important. Being able to reach the community, put some measures in place that are going to be able to show the community that we are working in conjunction with them to try and make our town a better town to reside in. I've also had conversation with the city manager relative to implementing a program or two relative to our seniors. I'm in the process of finalizing the proposal for that. And we're also going to be looking to try and implement some more programs for the youth as far as their interaction with law enforcement, which I think in today's day and age is a very important aspect to address with our youth of the communities, to make sure that they're fully aware of the needs of the police department when interacting with the community, and for them interacting with law enforcement also. As part of my request, I was looking to fill out our table of organization. We are slated for 85 officers by the table of organization. We are currently at 72. We had 4 retirements in the year 2020, and I have at least 1 committed retirement for the upcoming year of this year. There may be 1 or 2 additional, but I've only so far have 1 that has committed to retiring in June of this year. Again, that will bring us down to 71 officers, which is leading us down the road of a hampered environment in order to provide police services. And the goal is to provide the most efficient and best police services we can provide for the community as well. In addition to that, I was requesting to hire a full-time clerical worker that would be assigned to our records and our detective division. As we were talking about in earlier presentations, we are inundated with OPA requests that the clerk has to fulfill. And I currently have my administrative sergeant who is working on those OPA requests. And I think it's a better use of resources if we're able to hire a administrative clerk who will be able to take on that task and assist with that task and relieve the sworn police officer of that duty and allow him to concentrate on more administrative functions within the department. Subsequent to our losses, we've had a lot of experience that have left the department. We have some vacant positions in the supervisory ranks that are in need of being filled, so we can continue the continuity of getting our personnel properly trained, properly supervised, and again, providing that efficient police service that we need to provide to our community, which is my ultimate goal, and I'm sure it's each and every one of your goals as well. Our overtime has been obviously an issue, and that's based on our staffing levels that have occurred or shortages that have occurred. As it stands right now, somebody takes off on vacation or calls out sick, we are in need of having to fill that particular vacancy with overtime in order to maintain our minimum staffing levels to continue to provide that service. So as it stands right now, with the depletion of the personnel, almost every time there's an outage, it requires us to backfill with overtime in order to provide the minimum level of service to our community. So again, increasing our ranks is going to help minimize the overtime at some particular point in time, and will again allow us to provide proper police services to our community. Again, we've had a few major incidents in 2020. We've had some shooting incidents that we are currently and actively investigating. Again, one of my goals would be able to have personnel that will be deployed out in those areas to concentrate in the areas of concern so we can try and mitigate some of those issues of concern. We have used resources from other agencies. They have worked with us very well in order to help us combat our problem, but that is only putting a Band-Aid on the problem that we have. We need to look for a long-term solution where we're going to be able to provide holistically a very viable plan to combat some of the issues that we have within our community and be able to stand alone in doing that, because we're not always going to be able to avail ourselves to other resources because they're committed to the 69 other municipalities as well. But we have thus far had a very good relationship with the other county agencies, and they have provided good support thus far. We are also in the process of working on our dispatch contingent. We have had some revolving personnel in the dispatch contingent where we have not fulfilled the full ranks, where we have adequate dispatching services. We currently have dispatchers that are working on overtime in order to fill the minimum needs of providing dispatch service to the community. We have worked with HR to post, and we have an active posting going on in an attempt to hire qualified individuals that will be able to work in our dispatch communication center and provide the dispatch and communication needs for the city, which still encompass joint police and fire dispatch and EMS dispatch through the EVAC. I also am resubmitting a plan to try and hire the Class 2 Special that we had previously discussed. Class 2 Special will give us the opportunity to have one full-time individual who will be assigned to the downtown business area, who will be able to walk Palisade Avenue, address some of the parking complaints, be somewhat of an ambassador to the people who are going to be coming and visiting our town and patronizing our businesses, and give some sort of visibility in the business area of a law enforcement presence. And obviously that would be supplemented by our normal patrols in the area, and that would help to give the business area a more vibrant look and a more vibrant feel for those that are coming to visit our town. I've also recommended putting in a Class 3 program in order to try and supplement the school security. I realize that obviously with COVID, schools are at a either remote or some sort of hybrid learning environment, but at some point in time, they're going to return back to the schools. We currently do not have a school resource officer, which is one of the individuals I had to reassign when we had our personnel deficiencies. I would like to put a school resource officer back into the school, but I'd like to have that supplemented by having personnel in the class 3 positions that are full-time, working into the schools and being able to provide that law enforcement presence and safety and security for the schools. Again, we have previously had contact with the superintendent of schools, and there may be a way where we could try and mitigate some of the costs through some of the things that the city already has interaction with, and that's something that I would be interested in looking forward to moving down the road to see if that's a program that would be amenable to everybody to try and fulfill. Again, in 2020, it's kind of the year of the unknown. We don't know where COVID is going to take us at this particular point in time. Hopefully we'll be able to return to some sort of normalcy. But in any event, we still are tasked with having to provide police services to the community. Some of that may be at a reduced staffing issue due to the COVID, should we have to go back on a COVID schedule. And if not, we'll just be working with the amount of personnel that we currently have within the organization in order to provide those services. Again, with our budget requests, our operating expenses are pretty much underneath what we had last year. We're not looking to expand anything. The majority of our service contracts are the bulk of our actual operating expense. We did make some adjustments with the planning of possibly having the hiring process and testing take place. And we also have a supervisory promotional list that will be expiring, and we would be looking to expand that and have a promotional exam at some point in time. So we have a constant, consistent list, so we don't have a lapse in list when the next list expires. And that would be one of our goals. And as far as the working of the capital budget, I don't know if we want to discuss that now or some of the bigger ticket items now. I'm happy to do that if you like, or we can do that at a later time.
Sonia, you want to do that tonight?
I think we should, only because a lot of this impacts the chief's operations.
Yep.
So
let's
cover it.
Let's cover it.
Okay, one of the items of requests which has been on our list for the last several budget cycles is a radio upgrade. We have had some minor issues with our radios. We were looking to do a phased radio upgrade where we would buy some basic upgrade infrastructure and some equipment. And again, that would be done in several phases. Initial request was for approximately $86,000 for our portable radios and the mobile radios. And then we have some ancillary equipment that would be required in order to do that as well, to upgrade the infrastructure at a cost of approximately $20,000. So somewhere around $150,000 would be what's needed for the actual radio upgrade. We also
go over those numbers again. You said 86,000, and then what did you say?
One is 86,000, and there's another one for 1 second. It's approximately 50,000. And that would be the portable radios, the mobile radios, and the basic base station infrastructure.
Okay.
In addition to that, we have a communication center that is currently being housed in the police department. It is in need of a upgrade. It was supposedly going to be a temporary location. With the building of the fire department, we had discussed putting the communication center in there. That was taken out of the original plan for the firehouse, and it remains in our building. The current location is a very small room in operation where we have 3 operators, a minimum of 2 operators, but usually 3 operators operating at once in a very small environment. It was redone approximately 8 years ago, and now some of the furniture and equipment is in need of an upgrade, and we had put that in place for part of our expansive projects, and we were looking to get some of the desk equipment and furniture, which is approximately $85,000 in order to get the furniture that we needed to be conducive to the room, and the 911 upgrade, which is approximately $275,000 to upgrade our Zetron 911 communication system. And that is the hub of when you dial 911, that's where the calls are processed through and comes into the communication center. We also requested through Mr. Volsi the refreshing of some of our restroom facilities. We have some outdated restrooms that are in need of upgrading. Quite a few of them have doors that are falling off. They have fixtures that need to be replaced because they're old fixtures and they are not efficiently working. And we in the building have a total of 4 restrooms, and we have 2 other restroom facilities in the men's and the ladies' locker room for a total of 6. The stalls, some of the stall equipment has probably been part of the original equipment, and the building now is somewhere around 50 years old, and it has not been upgraded since then, and it needs to be repaired because it's falling off the wall, literally, and it has to be replaced almost on a several month basis. So that's one of the things that we requested. The numbers on that, I was working with Mr. Volsi, being the engineer. I don't know if he was able to get any numbers, any hard numbers on that, but we were working with him in order to achieve that. I know he's on the line. I don't know if he has anything that he can offer as far as the price point for that.
Not to interrupt. Yeah, I am working with, we've got some vendors in there that are going to be looking at the bathrooms and giving us quotes. So as soon as I get those numbers together, I will definitely advise everyone.
Thank you.
Very fun.
Also, at the capital project, we had requested $58,000 for our body camera expansion. We are rolling out our body cameras March 1st. All of the policies and procedures are being reviewed currently and being disseminated. The infrastructure is in place. The body cameras are ready to go. We have integrated them with our mobile video cameras, and March 1st, they will be deployed out in the field by the officers. And that is a big step that we've taken. It was a good undertaking for various reasons. We were able to get that infrastructure in place and attach it to our existing camera system. And the way it operates now is we have 30 cameras that will be deployed. My request would be for an additional 30 cameras, and we would be able to equip all of the patrol officers with a body camera, so that way they would be able to have one available at all times when they're out in the field, in addition to our detectives and our traffic unit that are out there doing enforcement. So essentially what would happen is every member of the department that would be in an enforcement action out in the field would be assigned a body camera, and will have that body camera in addition to the cameras that are in the vehicles, and the vehicles will also interconnect with those body cams, so we don't have 2 separate operating systems. It's all in one operating system and integratable, an integratable integratable process with the 2 units working together. We also are looking to upgrade our TASER rotation. We currently have 14 tasers that are in operation. Every 5 years or so, the warranties expire and the tasers have to be replaced. What we're looking to do is to increase the number of tasers we have, so we have less lethal options that are going to be deployed out in the field by all of the officers, to include our traffic personnel, and to cross-train our non-uniform personnel. So when they're out in the field, they would be able to deploy a taser with them. In the event that they have to take action, they would have a less lethal option available to utilize. That particular cost for approximately 7 units is $15,000 that would cover that expense. And additionally, the last item I believe we have would be the purchase of 2 Chevy Tahoes to add to our fleet. We have currently deployed 4 of them from our 2019 budget that are out there in operation. We are looking to purchase 2 additional ones under the capital resources for 2021. And again, that would give us the opportunity to add to our fleet, rotate vehicles, older vehicles out. As Mr. Cobb well knows, we have a few older vehicles that are in need of retirement, and we have worked hard to get that done. So the cost of the 2 vehicles are approximately $38,000 each, and the cost of upfitting is approximately $17,000 per vehicle. So it would be a total of $125,000. I think that's all of the. I'm sorry, I did skip one. We were looking to also incorporate message boards. We have currently 2 message boards that are somewhere around 10 years old that are semi-operational. We have been able to use them and deploy them, but they're in need of repair, and the repairs may be a little bit more costly than we expected due to their age and the fact that some of the equipment is or the parts are unavailable because they're discontinued models. We did look at getting a new message board that incorporates a traffic speed reader where we can deploy it in 2 phases. One as a speed monitoring device to flash the speed of vehicles. When we get reports of speeding vehicles, it would be deployed, and also display actual messages. So if we're using it for an event, we would be able to deploy it out in the field and with the appropriate message that we're looking to display or warning as it may be. And that particular item is $16,754 in order to obtain a message board. And that will conclude all of the capital budget requests that we have submitted.
Okay, so anybody got any questions for the chief? Judy?
I happen to live on a street where there's a speeding area issue, and I have been told that our department does not use radar guns. Is that true?
That is not true. We use a laser radar gun for our enforcement.
Okay, I just wanted to hear it from you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Got any questions for the chief?
I do.
Yep, go ahead.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, sir.
I listened to the list of capital needs, or I guess capital wants. Out of those, have you prioritized the ones that you need to get in place, immediately? Because we do need to phase in, and we need to commit as a council to to the capital chart that you outlined. But that was sort of like a Christmas list, with everything on it. But between you, the city manager, and the engineer, I'm hoping that we can come up with those things that are higher priority, and not that everything that you have there isn't important, but it given the situation is probably not achievable, but we certainly do need to look at making sure that you're equipped to do what you need to do. So if the three of you would give some thought to those things that have the highest priority, then we do need to come up with a plan, whether it's a 2, 3, 4, or 5-year plan to start putting those things in play. But I certainly would appreciate hearing that from the three of you.
Well, that's already been done on my end. And again,
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chief. Go ahead.
The radio upgrade has been the #1 priority, because obviously we need to have communication with our units out in the field. And if our radio system goes down, then we are completely inoperable. So that is a priority that we're looking to start working. And again, that's a phased project that we're looking to do, is to upgrade the digital radios in the field, and the ones assigned to the officers. And then again, some basic infrastructure needs. And the second phase will be the majority of the infrastructure needs that we're going to need moving forward. The second item was the TASER project or expansion, which is a minimal expense at $15,000. But again, it is something that I feel is very important in order to give the officers the tools that they need in order to mitigate the use of unnecessary deadly force, and give them an option with a less lethal option. And again, that would prevent us from in the future having to buy a bulk number of units at once if we do it in phases. So if we purchase 7 of them now, we may not have to purchase another few for another 2 years when the warranty is expiring on the other units. So that way we have a constant rotation of units that are always in compliance, and we're not making one big bulk purchase at one particular time. And
so,
I'm sorry.
Just to interrupt you for a second. You mentioned the communications needs, and that was, I think about $140,000. But you also mentioned, 911 upgrade, and that was substantially higher. So is all of that part of the same communications package ultimately, or are you piecemealing and phasing, or just help me with that?
Those are all separate issues. The actual radio communications are the handheld and car radios that we need to communicate from dispatch out into the field. The 911 system is something that's been in place for approximately 10, 15 years that is in need of upgrading. That is a completely separate issue. It has nothing to do with the radios per se, but it's all part of the communication process. And then the furniture, obviously, is something that has to do with the actual design and upgrade of the room itself that actually houses the majority of our operators and the basic equipment that we use for our operation.
And just to add to the chief's point, these items can't be piecemealed. The projects in their entirety need to be completed from step 1 to step 10, or however steps they're taken. And the 275 for the communication system, that is a real number. I've worked on this type of project in the past, so that number won't change. It won't really vary much. So the commitment is to work on these 2 that are very integral in the chief's operations. I mean, I don't know if anyone's gotten a chance to go to the dispatch room. It is a very small, I don't know how many square feet, chief, but it is not conducive to what he really needs in order to get his department running.
So isn't that supposed to be in the fire department anyway?
That was the original plan. It was taken out of the plan somewhere during the development process. So that option was taken out.
Well, don't they have capacity, more so than you?
Well,
don't even answer. I'll let that be a question for the city manager to look at and determine. But I don't want to start a war between our public safety units. So
not at all. And again, that was never an issue. And I'll just say that the plans, moving forward had been changed. And I do not believe, and I won't say that with any certainty, that the room still exists for us to expand over there. But I could be incorrect.
Of course not. Okay. All right. But okay, good. So maybe we can hear with a little bit more specificity on the communication, since that seems to be the highest priority, of the things that we've heard that long list of, and make some concrete steps toward moving to get that done. But thank you, Chief.
Anybody else have any questions for the chief? Really? All right, Chief.
I've got about
Ken? Yeah, I got about 50 myself. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, I was waiting for others. Chief, again, thank you for coming out tonight. One thing you brought up in your discussion was, for example, removing a uniformed officer from doing OPA requests to have a civilian or non-uniformed employee doing that. What other jobs within the department can be moved from uniformed personnel to civilian ranks?
At this point, we have looked and moved any personnel that were in a non-essential position back out to the road. We currently have, and if you would like to look at the organizational chart, our traffic division is to do traffic enforcement. We have our criminal investigations that has currently a captain that oversees that division, and he has a lieutenant and currently one sergeant with 2 squads of detectives. Ideally, the detectives were 5-person squads. We have been reduced due to our staffing down to 4 individuals in a squad, and they, again, are working very diligently. Most of our detectives right now are carrying anywhere from 50 to 100 open cases, which is an inordinate amount of cases to investigate. I mean, they're really that busy where the cases are coming in so fluid that they're unable to, excuse me, unable to solve them and close them out in a proper manner. Our juvenile department currently has a supervisor and 2 detectives. One works opposite shifts, and they have very integral parts in the school system, working with our school personnel and our superintendent. And the only other persons that we have that are in-house are the administrative sergeant, who works underneath me, and the records sergeant, who has control of records and evidence, and an evidence officer.
And who's doing noise work? I know at previous council meeting, there's, I guess, new noise equipment that people are being trained in.
Well, that is being done through our patrol division. What we did was, in conjunction with the health department, we had 2 officers that went to the noise officer training. So they were trained in the investigation process of noise. The health department purchased noise meters or decibel meters, where they're able to determine what the decibel levels are of noise. So working in conjunction with the health department, Matt Troud, who is the noise compliance officer for the city, we're able to conduct investigations. They're not separate entities. They're patrol officers that have that special skill set.
So they are uniformed then?
That is correct.
So do you need, okay, so that's just, you feel that's a role for uniformed officers to just get an extra skill set then?
Well, absolutely, because normally the calls for service will come in of a noise complaint, which our patrol division would respond to, and they would be the first ones on scene. So provided, hopefully we would have that trained individual there who would be able to take the noise meter out and conduct an investigation to determine whether it's a violation of the ordinance or not. Our goal is to get more personnel trained, so we have at least 2 people on every shift that will be able to investigate noise complaints.
All right. And are there any social workers in the department?
No, there are not.
So as I'm sure you're aware, that's been a discussion, probably nationally, that, there might be some situations where maybe a social worker, it's more of a social situation than a criminal situation where a social worker might be of value. Is that something that other municipalities are looking at, or that we've been looking at? Or do you think it has any value?
I'm not going to say it doesn't have any value. To my knowledge, that has not been discussed in Bergen County to any of my counterparts that I've had conversation with. And again, it's a very fine line in the state of New Jersey, because most of the social interactions are either domestic violence, which is a criminal offense, or it is actually a crisis situation that usually deals with our youth. And that's part of what our youth division deals with. And they have a direct connection with the crisis intervention and/or DIFUS, or as it's called differently now, in order to help resolve the problems.
So is that something you ever see in the future, our department having, or just not yet? Or you're not planning on that at all?
We're not planning on that. It's not something that we're not opposed to looking into. Again, in my opinion, it's a fine line, because you have the criminal element that occurs under the state of New Jersey domestic violence laws, that officers must take action under certain circumstances. And depending upon the training of a social worker going out into a environment that may be A, potentially hostile, and B, may have criminal responsibility, the department has to take action on
that. Councilman Rosenzweig, I did have experience in the last community with the conversation of a social worker. Part of that conversation is some training and what the role of the social worker would actually be. And so there's this sort of back and forth, as the chief mentioned, because if there's a hostile situation, you don't necessarily want the social worker to be the first person there. So the social worker comes more as a support person in the aftermath, if you will, and try to be as a follow-up to that. So I can certainly talk to the chief about some of the conversations that I had, and how some of the communities are approaching this idea. Actually, there was one major community out in the Midwest of all places who has instituted this in the last, I believe it was Kentucky, and I'll send you all the article, for the last 4 years, and it has been working to a certain capacity. But again, I'm going to work with the chief, and we'll have conversations about this and how this could potentially help our community. Chief, I think I had asked you before, do we have also chaplains within the police department? Because that oftentimes creates a good support system, not just the community, your officers who are dealing with these situations. We're talking about community relations in general.
Right. We do not have any police chaplains at the current time. But just to circle back around as well, the County of Bergen has a domestic violence crisis response team. And normally when the officers respond to a domestic violence incident, the resources of the crisis worker is offered. Unfortunately, we found, especially in our community, that people don't take advantage of it. So it's completely underutilized. We do have trained personnel, one of which happens to be one of my staff members. And in the event that there's an incident of domestic violence, the officer asks the individual if they would like to meet with the crisis response worker. And that worker, if they choose to meet with them, will explain all of the complexities of the domestic violence process, applying for a restraining order, the resources that are available if they're looking to get out of a hostile situation. So in essence, it's not a social worker, but it's a resource that's used to give them the opportunity to escape from a hostile environment should they choose to.
Thank you.
I think it's more along mental health is the kind of folks that you want to have in there, as opposed to a social worker.
Absolutely, and again, there are a lot of individuals that are experiencing mental health issues. We have officers who are trained in a crisis response, CRT. So they are actually trained in some measures of de-escalation, understanding the concepts of mental health, being able to speak to somebody who is going through a crisis, so that way they can kind of bring the situation down to a level where it's not going to escalate. Not to mention, I have probably 7 of my officers who are part of the teaching cadre that actually teach this to other officers throughout the county. So currently we have approximately 32 officers in the department that have been trained in this technique. And again, we have approximately 7 officers that are part of the teaching cadre that teaches to the county members as well.
So we should be fully prepared for any kind of instances of mental health and recognizing it and de-escalating, so we get these people the right treatment instead of something else happening. That's a lot. You have a big number of people there.
We do, and we've been fortunate because we did have the officers who were part of the training cadre, so we were able to get extra officers in during the classes because the classes fill up very easily. But when we're able to manage our personnel, we can get a lot more people trained, and we've done so.
Well, that number, Sonia, is so big that why won't our insurance company or our risk officers get us some discounts on some of that, since we have so many people who are training and we have so many people who are qualified? Sounds like something we should be getting back in return. But I guess getting back to Councilman Hamer's point about the capital things, and so I guess we have to look at them and prioritize it and have a conversation again with the chief and the city manager and Franz, and at the end of this whole process, and line these things up and see what we need to do, because we need to give you the tools so you'll be able to do your job. So I certainly have gotten a sense of that, but also we want to give you the tools that are allowing you to do your job based on what's happening in the community today and in the future as well. What do we need? And how do we need it? And how fast can we get it?
That's a good conversation to have, absolutely.
Right. So, okay. Sounds good to me. I got the list. Anybody else have any questions for the chief? All right, Chief. Listen, thank you for your feedback and your time. And now we'll open it up, Yancy, to the public. And they'll have 2 minutes, name, address, and question, only on these 3 topics. City clerk, the library, and the police department.
Just as a reminder to everyone, at the bottom of the screen, there's the More button. Click on that. You'll see raised hand. Click on that, and then you'll be placed in queue. First one on is Amy Bullock.
Good evening, Amy Bullock, Howland Avenue, Inglewood. I just want to really quick recognize Yancy. I am one of those people who send in Oprah requests. Yancy and her team are quick, they're efficient, they're clear, they answer questions. So I want to recognize her and her team for that. Also want to recognize John Arthur and the entire library staff. They have done a wonderful job keeping the library relevant during this pandemic. And then third, I just want to support the chief in his request for additional staff. And I'm just very quickly going to go over some numbers. 2013, 25,000 events, a staff of 79. 2014, greater than 30,000 events with a staff of 81. 2015, greater than 35,000 events with a staff of 83. 2016, greater than 36,000 calls with a staff of 83. 2017, greater than 45,000 calls with a staff of 81. 2018, greater than 42,000 calls with a staff of 76. 2019, I don't have, but he just said for 2020, 42,000 events with a staff of 72. How do we allow our staff to go down when the events are going up? People's homes are being invaded while they're there. Random shootings happening throughout the community. If this is not a reason for this council to find a way to get this chief the staff he needs to keep all of us safe, then I don't know what it's going to take. But we cannot continue to go in the direction that we're going, or we are going to have the wild, wild west right now. So I, as a resident, support the chief's requests for the staff that he needs in order to be able to manage the city and to keep us safe. That's it. Thank you.
Next is Janine Ellis.
Good evening, Janine Ellis, 1 William Street, Inglewood. I am wanting to thank John and the staff at Inglewood Library for the wonderful job and all of the great programming that they do. I feel so sad that I can't bring my class currently to visit the library because we do frequent there from my school, but you guys are doing an amazing job virtually. And I definitely see that the programming will continue virtually and in person. And I think it's awesome. To the Chief Suffern, I want to thank you for your dedication, for your transparency, and for your thoroughness in making known what your needs are. And as a community member, I absolutely second what Amy Bullock said. And we do need staffing. We need help. We need to do better for our community. And one of the ways that we can do that is to help the chief get what he needs to run the department correctly. I do have a question, and my question is, will the hiring come only from that list, or are you accepting outside applications? Thank you.
Chief. Can't hear you.
Not muted.
Go ahead. Can't hear you.
No,
Now you're muted.
Now you're muted. Try it again. No.
Can't hear you.
Chief, if I may, if you want to nod or no. So part of what the new process that the chief talked about earlier was creating a new hiring practice in terms of getting people that are already certified. So that's one. And two, we do need to create an exam, and that's been allocated and requested through the budget. So those are two ways. And the fastest way is to get those people that are certified so that the timing of the academy is less, and the chief could get those staffing levels filled up rather quickly. So Chief, if
that's correct.
Sonia,
okay, there you go.
Sonia, I think even being more direct, what he said, also, he has two positions that y'all are currently looking to fill immediately.
That's correct.
Immediately. So
with the
we
process.
have, so that this process is ongoing and has been, moving in that direction. So I think that we need to just be clear about that we're taking care of that. That's something that's being worked on right now as we speak. So we'll continue to work on that with a plan.
Okay.
Yancy?
Next is Scott Jenkins.
Scott Jenkins, former police officer, Inglewood Police Department. Dr. Rosenzweig, thank you very much for recognizing the importance of dealing with mental health and social issues and so on and so forth. Today, policing is different. We must look at it in a different way. and that's going to help us to avoid problems in the future. Chief, I want to ask you a question. I haven't been there in the police department in 15, 20 years, but I can tell you, I think minimum manning at one time was somewhere around 7 officers on one shift. Would that be correct?
Going back when you were there, it was 5 officers. It was increased to 7 officers.
Okay, and that's what the current is right now. So on any given shift, okay, the city of Englewood has 7 police officers as a minimum. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I just want the council to understand what that means emergency-wise. Okay, you have 1 officer assigned to each sector, that's 4. You have 1 that's in the central district, that's 5. You could have another one that's floating, okay, and 1 is generally on a lunch break. If you have 2 calls going on at one time, you're out of police officers, ladies and gentlemen. That leaves the city uncovered and calling for mutual aid. This is not a, we need to do 1, we need to do 2, we really need to give the city of Englewood and these people what they deserve in security. You can't fluff around with this type of stuff. The chief has been asking for manpower for quite some time now. Okay, your crime rate, your serious crimes are up. Folks, this is no joke. Please give him the resources that he needs. Thank you.
Yancy, next, please.
Next is Diane Jansen.
Wow, Mr. Jenkins, thank you. Thank you, thank you for making it real. And AJB, our own Amy Jones Bullock, I'd like to third everything you said about Yancy's department and Yancy about the library, and as well as by the chief. I know I've made at least 2 Oprah requests for videos of public meetings last year, and I asked if the Zooms of the City Council, Planning Board, and Board of Adjustment could be posted publicly. I am again making this request. I've also recently made some requests about information that hasn't been updated online or it's not fully available. I really believe that if Oprah requests decrease, they would decrease, I should say, if more information were made available online. However, you're still going to need a resource either way to make that information available online. Thank you, Mr. Cobb, for bringing up mental health also. I think you've properly defined it as mental health rather than just social work. And I also believe that if we had a community center, the library could use the space there for programming. With respect to a hybrid council, planning board, and board of adjustment meetings in the future, could we please reach out to the governor's office on this? Thanks.
Next is Reverend Harper.
Greetings. Thank you for taking my call. All of my questions have been answered. Chief Suffren, I think back to when I was at school teaching and when they initially brought in the current security staff. When they came in with Gestapo type uniforms. And it kind of upset the kids. And that was a lot of years ago. So my question is, when we get back to our school resource person, will they be dressed in civilian attire? Will they be dressed in a dress-down uniform, or will they be there in full uniform? And my main concern is middle school. That's my question.
We currently are wearing our normal Class A uniform. All of the personnel are wearing that unless they're on a a traffic assignment or there's severe inclement weather as the snow this past week. But they are readily identifiable in the normal uniform, and that's done for a specific purpose of identity. So if there's a emergency or an incident on the property of a school, anybody who is on the grounds will be able to identify the law enforcement officer at that time. It's not a military type uniform. It's a regular professional police uniform that we wear.
Thank you, Chief. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Yancy.
Okay, that was it.
All right. We're going to close the public.
Sorry, one person raised their hand. Courtney?
Okay.
Good evening, all. Courtney Johnson Suffern, Englewood, New Jersey. I just wanted to come on and, echo what everybody else has said this evening. I come from a personal point. He is my husband. He leaves this house at 8:30. He comes home at 8:30, 9 o'clock. He is one man. He cannot continue to run at that rate. The definition of insanity is expecting a different result, doing the same thing over and over again. I ask and implore you all to give him the resources that he needs in order to be successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yancy.
That's it.
All right, we're going to close this public session, and we're going to move to close this meeting. A motion and a second.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.